You can know all I am. Share my life, take my giving. I can't change how I'm living, but you can know all I am. You can know all I am. Watch me grow, know my sorrow. I can't lend and I can't borrow, but you can know all I am.
I like the way I feel. I enjoy being a lesbian.
It's like asking me, why am I a woman? Or why am I Hispanic? It's who I am.
I don't really even analyze it too much. This is natural for me.
My heart and my soul are stirred and get to soar the highest when I'm involved with women energy, women ideas. It's just, that's my place. That's my place. I couldn't think of any other way to be.
Finding that I'm courageous, that I'm strong, that I am capable, that I am intelligent, discovering all those things about myself. There's no beating that.
It was brimming over in me to make this choice, and then once I felt like I could make it, I just made it. And I just kind of announced to him, well, I can't be married anymore. I am a lesbian.
I can't change how I'm living, but you can know all I am.
The first time that I ever met anybody who said, I'm a lesbian, I really didn't know what that meant.
Well, a lesbian is a woman whose primary commitments, connections, emotional and sexual energy go towards other women.
I am attracted to, in love with Maureen. I am committed to her. Lesbianism in general, I think, just means women who are attracted to other women.
Strict lesbianism, I think, is just a woman loving a woman. I guess.
I mean, I think it has more. It has a sexual connotation, which is why I say we don't walk in and say, hi, I'm lesbian. You don't walk in and say, hi, I'm straight, I'm heterosexual. I think it has a sexual connotation because, and I mean, in the fact that we don't say that, sometimes people will think we are an alternative family, which is two single straight women sharing children. Some people do think that, and I think that's because they cannot handle thinking that we are having sex together or that we are lesbians.
I think it is the sex of homosexuality that makes it scary for the public at large and for general society. There have always been so many taboos surrounding sex. If we could just accept the whole person and get past whatever it is that's different about their sex life.
There's not much you can say to people who think that being lesbian and gay is all about sex, except to tell them that it isn't. And it's about love, and it's about relationships. And when we have so little love sometimes in the world today, I think that we should admire, respect it, and encourage it wherever we can find it.
Lesbianism is an emotional attraction. It has nothing to do with your behavior. A person can be married to a man. A woman can be married to a man and still be a lesbian. So it's an emotional orientation which I think is a given.
My personal view is that, at least for most people, that it isn't a choice, that it's a matter of orientation. Any more than it's a choice for me to be heterosexual. It's not something I ever chose to be or didn't choose to be. I've never thought about it. I mean, this is the way I am. And I think that that's the way people who are lesbian or gay are. And I mean, it's just part of a human being, and it isn't a choice.
Throughout history, homosexuality has been thought of as an individual's choice, not as it is now understood to be a genetic predisposition. The homosexual was labeled deviant, persecuted, and made society's scapegoat. Perfectly normal people who would have led happy, productive lives were driven underground and forced to drown their despair in alcoholism, suicide, and insanity. Homosexuals were committed to insane asylums and subjected to shock treatment. They were privately and publicly raided by the police and imprisoned in Nazi concentration camps. Just as the Jews were forced to wear yellow stars to identify themselves, homosexuals were forced to wear pink triangles. In the 1950s, lesbians joined with other minorities to plead for the democratic ideals of liberty, justice, and equality for all. The Daughters of Bilitis, a lesbian society, pressed for lesbian rights. However, it was not until the Stonewall riots of 1969 that the gay and lesbian civil rights movement was recognized. For the first time in the homosexuals' collective history, fear was replaced by anger and purpose as gays and lesbians battled their oppressors in the streets. Only an uprising of this magnitude could gain the necessary media attention essential in giving birth to an era of gay pride. Finally, making possible the public prominence of gay and lesbian officials like former Massachusetts Representative Elaine Noble. In 1973, the American Psychiatric Association removed homosexuality from its list of disorders. For the first time, the stigma of abnormal sexual behavior was lifted from homosexuality, and the myth that it should be treated or corrected was shattered. The veil of invisibility lifted. Self-esteem and the demand for acceptance were finally expressed. The gay and lesbian watchwords became, "Come out," "Dare to defy prejudice," and homophobia.
I think the best way to define homophobia is to call it a fear of gay anything, gay people, gay feelings, and whether that fear is directed at externally to somebody who happens to be gay, or internally by people who are themselves gay and don't want to face up to what that means, or by heterosexual people who are afraid of perhaps some feelings of homosexuality that they have inside themselves, or are afraid of a threat, real or imagined, to society that they feel that the gay and lesbian community might pose to society, whether that be the destruction of the nuclear family or God knows what. It's really basically unfounded fears, but very real to the people who suffer them.
I define homophobia as an irrational emphasis on the irrational fear of homosexuality. Mm-hmm. And it comes out in various forms and ways. But I honestly believe that underneath it all, if you say what is it that is perpetuating homophobia, somewhere or another there is a deep-seated fear in the person who is homophobic about their own self and their own being and their own relationship to the world. It is as though homosexuality displaces them because it challenges their whole belief system, their whole foundations about something as simple as, male and female, or what it means to be male and female. And there is this resistance to what they feel is changing the natural order of things that is just very, very unsettling. Mm-hmm. And I find that resistance to homosexuality has as much to do with how people feel it's going to affect their lives and their own perception of themselves and their lives as it has anything to do with their attitude towards the person who happens to be gay.
It shakens their foundation. Like Deborah said, it displaces them. They don't know what to do or what to feel, what they're supposed to feel about the things that they supposedly believe in.
I find that people who hate don't just hate one group. People who hate lesbians often also hate Jewish people, or hate black people, or hate Mexican Americans, or make jokes about Asian Americans. They're often basically insecure people, but they don't need to stay insecure. We can all become more secure about ourselves, and when we do become more secure about ourselves and have our own self-esteem enhanced, then we feel more secure about knowing other people and not attacking them because we think it makes us seem to be bigger or better.
Homophobia takes all sorts of different forms, from the very crass gay bashing, which is very physical. I think one of the most potent examples that stands out in my mind is this boy was walking across a bridge in Maine, and he was attacked by 3 people who knew that he was gay or suspected him to be gay. And this bridge was crossing over a river. And they picked him up and they held him out over the river, and he said, I can't swim, I can't swim. And they said, you're gonna swim, faggot, and threw him right over, and of course he drowned.
I have dealt with homophobia, with lying and denial when it came to my survival.
Homophobia is this sort of nasty little disease that lots and lots and lots, in fact probably most straight people have, but unfortunately it infects lesbians also. And for me, it is as important that lesbians deal with our internalized self-hatred so that we can be proud lesbians. Because our being proud lesbians enables us to come out and help straight people deal with their homophobia.
We grow up to be afraid of homosexuality just like everybody else. Mm-hmm. And when we discover it about ourselves, it's, you know, it's a very fearful thing. And then we're afraid of other people's reaction to it. Mm-hmm. Fear of rejection, I guess, ridicule. You know, Maureen and I have been together for 10 years, and Maureen has suggested that we get rings. And I have never wanted to have rings. And anyway, for various and sundry reasons, I've finally come to the point. That's what we're doing later this afternoon when we said what we have to do. So we're going to look. I have finally come around to where I have said, okay, let's get rings. Now, this afternoon we will go into some jewelry stores and we will look for matching rings. And homophobia will come up in me. They will ask, I'm not sure what the questions will be because we haven't shopped for this exact thing, but we go shopping for other things together and they ask me if I'm her mother. I mean, they sense that there's some
a relationship
closeness between the two of us, and they're trying to figure out what it is. Actually, the questions are not cruel. They aren't. They're just curious. And the response would be, no, are you her mother? No, I'm her lover, you know. Or no, we're a lesbian couple. That would be the honest response if I could ever say it. But that's what I mean with dealing with homophobia. It's inside ourselves mainly.
You have to be comfortable with yourself, and you have to expect other people to be comfortable with you.
My being gay never bothered me. The problem was how much it seemed to bother everybody else. And I dare say I've spent the bulk of my life really in some kind of reaction or response to that. There's been a lot of pain, a lot of frustration around that particular issue. And I think that I have spent an inordinate amount of time trying to raise consciousness levels, trying to help people get over whatever fears that they have, to just make society a place where I can live and be who I am in peace. You know, for me, I think that I have only, say, within the past couple of years, gotten to the point where I no longer allow it to be a problem. Mm-hmm. There's a phrase that someone very close to me uses, that pain pushes until vision pulls. Mm-hmm. And I think that I have spent most of my life being motivated by the pain of my experience. Until finally I got to the point where I could visualize who it was that I was and just living my life at such a level of integrity that I was no longer concerned with anybody else's validation. The vision of that is what carries me forth now. So that I no longer am being sparked or moved up. I'm not angry anymore. And now I'm inspired. And that's the point from which I live my life now.
When you have nothing to hide, then you have nothing to lose.
If every person who is a lesbian said, I am a lesbian, to their family and their friends and their employers and the butchers and the milk deliverer and everybody else, it would create quite a bit of political change as well as personal change in this country. But I don't think that everybody is ready to do that. And I respect the fact that some people are not ready to do that. I think we all have to respect that and just say to each other that whenever you're ready to come out of the closet, then we support you in it. And if you're not ready, we support you in that too. There are a great deal of risks involved in coming out of the closet. And there are many, many risks involved if one doesn't. So whether one can afford the risks either way is a personal judgment that has to be made by each individual. But isn't that terrible that we drive people to live underground?
At least 10% of our population is gay. That's 25 million people. Each one of those people has 2 parents. And if you're going to throw in a few aunts and uncles and step-parents and brothers and sisters, that amounts to a lot of people. At least 50 million people that are directly touched with the homosexual issue. If we all came out just one day and stood up and said, I have a gay child, or I am a gay person, this is who I am and what I am, see me, give me a chance, just treat me as another person. Don't look at me as gay or lesbian or homosexual. I'm just another human being with some differences. We're all different. Society would surely change.
Yes, society would surely change. But despite anti-discrimination laws and societal changes, lesbians and gays are still persecuted and continue to suffer the devastating rejection of family and friends, as well as the loss of jobs, housing, and the custody of children. The security that heterosexuals so easily take for granted is constantly jeopardized for the lesbian. The daily struggle to overcome prejudice and discrimination persists.
We are a gentle, angry people, and we are singing, singing for our lives.
Lesbians have always had to conform to heterosexual principles by entering into marriage. Others have chosen celibacy by entering the convent or accepting the role of spinster aunt. Lesbians entering the armed forces continue to be dishonorably discharged if their homosexuality is discovered. But worst of all, lesbians have been forced to deny themselves. Against all odds, lesbians continue to come out in even greater numbers, attempting to break the enforced silence that exiles them from the world. Thank goodness the basic human right and need to affirm oneself for who one truly is prevails.
I was raised to get married and have children. I followed that path. I didn't deviate at all. I did everything right on schedule. And then all of a sudden I dramatically, left the whole program. And I had some very rough moments in those early years.
And I remember praying from the time I was about 16 on, praying, please God, don't let me be a lesbian.
When I first realized that I was attracted to another woman, it was very scary for me. And I hoped that at that point in time, I didn't accept myself as a lesbian by any means. I just was aware of those feelings inside me, and I hoped that maybe it meant that I was bisexual, that I'd still be able to have an attraction for a man. And for a while there, I tried to create one. And it wasn't until I got together with Maureen that I realized that I don't really have any choice in those feelings. My feelings of my attractions for people are just natural. They bubble out of me, and I need to accept them.
I suspect that there was something, quote unquote, wrong, probably when I was like in the 7th grade. I was accelerated, so I was 10 years old when I was in the 7th grade. And I knew that there was something off because I found myself really being attracted to my girlfriends and being jealous of any attention that they were giving to the boys, and somehow I thought I'd be much better off, they'd be much better off with me than with them anyway.
She's so cocky.
That's why you love me. But it was really, I can't explain it. I knew that I didn't fit the stereotypical mold. I knew that whatever it was that they said little girls were supposed to be was not it. That I just did not relate to that. And I honestly think for the longest time I thought God had played an ugly trick, and that somehow he must have stuck this little boy inside of a little girl's body. And I remember trying to explain that to my parents. When I was 10 years old, actually, and I was trying to explain to them what it was that I was feeling and what was going on. And my father said, that's okay, it's very normal.
Mind you, her mother is very religious.
Yeah. Well, my father's basic response was, gee, that's okay, it's quite natural for, same-sex friends to be attracted to each other. You'll outgrow it. My mother's like, we'll see. Well, within about 3 years later, 4 years later, I was actually in a relationship, and my mother was suspecting, all of the time. By the time I actually discovered that I was a lesbian, I was relieved. I was just relieved to know that I wasn't a freak of nature, and that there was something that I was, that it had a name, and that there were other people who felt the same way.
I'm not out to my parents, and I'm not out to my family, due to the fact that I come from a very violent family, due to the fact that I have not made the conscious choice that I am ready to lose my family.
I think the hardest place that gay people find to tell people that they're gay is within their own families, which is very different from any other societal group. If you're talking about blacks or other minorities, they go out and they face the big bad world, and then they come back into the sanctity and security of their families. But with gay people, that's sometimes the last people that they tell, because they're afraid that they're going to lose the love, they're going to lose the support, they're going to lose the friendship of their siblings, their parents.
The next person I told was my mother, who we had already had a close relationship, talked basically about most things, although that had never come up as an issue. Her reaction to me was mixed. She wanted to believe that she felt what she had always said she felt. So on one level she said, well, I'll always love you, was that sort of thing. On the other hand, she would say things like, I knew your father wasn't around enough, and I shouldn't have sent you to girls' school, and I shouldn't have let you play football with your brothers, or whatever. I mean, there was 1,000,001 rationalizations. Basically, how I saw it is she was trying to find blame somewhere. And my reaction to that is, Mom, there's no one to blame. I'm happy. There's no reason to blame. And she couldn't accept that. I would say to her, Mom, I'm happy, and she'd look me right in the eye and said, I can't accept you're happy.
They were both crying, and she said, but Daddy, I can't change. If I could, I would for you. It was such a trauma for us all that I will never forget that, after all these years. But Daddy, I can't change. I would if I could for you. I wish I could for you. That's a terrible thing to lay on a young adult, that they should feel guilty.
We should all stand up and support the rights of others to be free of the many wrongs and the many injustices and the great suffering that is inflicted on people solely because they are lesbian.
You should be able to just be who you are and be accepted. But in our society, that's not always possible.
There should be laws against discrimination on account of sexual orientation, because the law prohibits arbitrary discrimination, that is, discrimination against someone because of a factor over which they have no control, that is, because they are of a certain race or because they are a woman. And so it's logical to say that the law should also prohibit discrimination on account of sexual orientation, because it's a matter over which a person has no control.
Maybe I'm trying to learn those things about you that you don't even know.
wish that my family was more accepting of us as a couple and not thinking of us as kind of like a fluke. Because that's what I got the feeling that my family thought, that, well, she's just tripping out on this and it's not going to last and she's going to wish she was back in school and she's going to be sorry and all this. And our relationships lasted longer than my father with his second marriage, you know, it's better than that. I just wish that people would respect our relationship for what it is and not think it's something, to understand that it's just as valid as if we were married in a court of law, if we were man and wife or whatever, it's just as valid, it's just as important.
We are married. We have not had a ceremony or a license or rings. We don't have the outward signs, but we have all the emotions and the commitments that go with being married.
We have everything in joint. Everything's in joint tenancy. Cars, the house.
Yeah, we do have the same name, so.
And the same name. I mean, we're about as married as you can get without a license, but we still don't have the privileges of a married couple. I mean, I was just turned down for 2 insurances because they would not insure 2 unmarried people on the same policy.
You realize that what marriage mostly offers heterosexuals is, you know, very good access to a whole legal code. I mean, lesbian couples have to go through so much to get those same rights with each other that married heterosexual couples just take for granted.
We suffer from discrimination because we're not recognized as a couple. You know, for our car insurance to be on the same policy, medical insurance, Maureen cannot be a family member on my policy at this point in time. All sorts of legal rights really are not afforded to us because it's not, our union isn't recognized legally.
Also, another thing on the civil rights aspect of it, if Maureen were seriously injured and were in intensive care, I would not be admitted into intensive care because I am not a relative, unless I have a durable power of attorney, which is a paper that you have to go to a lawyer to get. And we did do that. We both have durable power of attorneys that we carry in our glove compartments so that in case of emergency we would be allowed in. But I mean, this is an example. Also, if either one of us were incapacitated through illness or injury, the other one would have no say in the health care decisions for the other one. It would only family members can participate in making health care decisions for a disabled person. So that's another example of where if we did have some kind of a legally recognized union, then we wouldn't have that difficulty.
The issue of whether persons of the same sex ought to be entitled under the law to the same rights, that is, the right to marry, is an important issue, and I think one that we're going to hear quite a bit more about in years ahead. Of course, many of us wonder how this could be. We're so used to thinking of a man and a woman getting married, and we don't think about 2 persons of the same sex getting married, and we think, well, that's ridiculous. But then when we think about it, we think about, well, what is involved in a marriage? Why would 2 people want to be married, whether those 2 people are the same sex or a different sex? For me, I try to think about what is involved in a marriage. What's involved is commitment. What's involved is responsibility. What's involved is joy. And people get married because they want to show that commitment to the other person. Perhaps they want to show their family and friends that type of commitment in a legal way. And also because they often would like to have the legal protection that's available under the law once the word marriage comes into the relationship and is recognized from a legal point of view. Well, I have found that many people of the same sex would also like to symbolize that kind of commitment, that kind of sharing, that kind of assuming responsibility and assuming the joy that goes with the relationship to their family and friends and others, and would also like to enjoy the legal protection that is presently available to people who happen to be a couple of a man and a woman. And when I think about it that way, I think that it's perfectly reasonable for them to enjoy that right. Of course, we sometimes think, well, isn't marriage something that people do for procreation purposes? Well, perhaps that some people do it for procreation purposes, but not everybody gets married for procreation, to have children. Certainly senior citizens don't marry each other for the purpose of having children, so we shouldn't be concerned about that. Some people are concerned about what it says in the Bible, but that's a whole other issue. And then there are people who have arguments from the Bible that say that that wouldn't be prohibited in the Bible. I think what we should do is, again, look at what is fair and what is protective of people. We would all want our daughters and our sons to enjoy protection under the law. Don't we want our friends to enjoy that protection? What about people that we don't know? Shouldn't they also enjoy that protection? I think they should.
I see nothing wrong if a lesbian couple wants to have a child. Some women don't feel fulfilled unless they've had a child, and then some couples want to have a child. I think they ought to be allowed to.
When we first got together 10 years ago, I didn't know it was a possibility to have kids. I thought that part of accepting myself as a lesbian meant that I wouldn't be having children in my life. And since then, in the last 3 years particularly, we've met other couples who have had children through artificial insemination or through adoption, and who are raising, kids, and it's really opened a whole new world for us of possibilities that we didn't know existed. And when that happened, it really triggered a process in me to the process of recognizing how much I've always wanted kids, and realizing that I want to make that decision right now to have kids. Maureen and I we are a family, and I feel like our relationship is really strong, and I want to expand our family. I really think that we would make good parents, and I would love to bring some kids into the world, or to adopt some kids who don't have parents and raise them. I think we'd do a good job.
I think they'll make very good parents, and whichever way it works out, the baby will be very lucky, I would say, to have them for their parents. And
I think you'd be a great grandma.
Yeah, grandma at 76 for the first time. That'd be something.
I think that it's absolutely wonderful for lesbians to have children. I think that lesbians are, for the most part, conscious, intelligent, very decent people, and will make, certainly as fine parents as anyone else, and provide wonderful role models. One of the wonderful ways that they provide role models is in the area of gender roles. I mean, no matter how hard heterosexual couples strive to have equal gender roles, because there's a man in the house and a woman in the house, they frequently are going to fall into very stereotypical roles, which they will then teach their children. That doesn't happen in a lesbian household. You have women doing whatever needs to be done.
I feel what I share with the boys is real special, and what Catherine shares with them is real special. And if anything, I think they've got a real neat opportunity here to see women who can fix their own cars, who are totally sufficient in and of themselves, that we don't need to be taken care of in any way, and that just about anything we can do. And I think that's real nice for them. And we respect their maleness as much as our own femaleness, so I think it's a nice opportunity for them.
I think they're going to make great husbands because they'll understand certainly a lot of biological stuff that other men don't, and emotional stuff. What they see is just basic womanhood every day, and we don't really hold anything back as far as that goes. So I think that they're going to be much readier, or more ready, when it comes to having a relationship with a woman, if that's what they decide to do, to understand her as a person, as a human being, than their peers who don't have this kind of situation. They're going to know. They're not going to have mysteries that set up walls between them and their partners.
They have male role models. We're very close with our neighbors, so they've grown up seeing men in a very positive way. My father lives not too far away from here, so they've had their grandfather in their life. And right now, Benji's has a Jewish big brother, and that's another man in his life. So it hasn't seemed to be a problem. And Emily has a best friend. The gentleman next door is a semi-retired man, and that's her best buddy. And she spends lots of time sitting on his front porch. The two of them sit and talk and have a real nice relationship.
Yeah. So there are male role models all around if you want to look for them, and the children have found their own male role models that are important to them.
A lot of people, I found that they think that with gay women, they think that one of the women wants to be a man, so that one of them is a man and the other one is a woman. And gay men, one of them is the woman and one of them is the man. So I think, you know, that men are always trying to be girls, and that girls that are gay are trying to be men. That was the main thing where I never really understood how they came to that conclusion.
They try to make me be the husband. They try to pigeonhole me. And that we had to straighten them out, that we were not into roles and I was not the husband.
As far as definite roles, like one person's in control all the time and the person's not, we don't follow that. It really depends on the mood, I guess.
Yeah, we both have so much to learn from each other. Natalie has her strong points, and it's, you know, and I'm weak in those sometimes, and then I have my stronger points, and it's easier for her to follow, you know.
But we don't follow like one person's the husband and one person's the wife or anything like that. Not at all. I mean, she'll wash the dishes and I'll cook, or I'll wash the dishes and she'll cook. Or
she's a great cook.
You know,
I'm a great dishwasher.
I do have more of I do the clothes and do the cooking. You know, I do more of that stuff, but I don't feel like it's on the family, or that this is my role. It's more like I'm good at these things, Catherine's good at these things.
I'm good at arranging the house and
organizing
closets and decor, although you couldn't tell it by looking at it, but I'm good at those kind of things, and Joan's good at organizing other parts of our physical life. Right. And just because I'm a technician in real life, I know all about cars, that responsibility falls on my shoulders. But Joan can do her own tune-ups and she can do her own oil changes, so I don't have to always do it. It's just that it's a hobby.
I've lived in a gay family and I live in a straight family, and the differences between the two have to do with the family, not anything to do with which one's straight or gay or anything. And they're just the same family, and the problems that come up are individual with the family, and they don't have anything to do with heterosexuality or homosexuality.
It's not our business if she's going straight, if she's straight or if she's lesbian.
If she's our mom, you know, we love her anywhere she is.
Yeah.
No fancy fantasy, no magic mystery, no wide-eyed wonder, just a plain and simple love.
It's a sad state of affairs that in this vast world of possibilities, an individual must still be identified by their sexuality. 1 in 3 American families has a gay or lesbian member who will continue to suffer until we all enjoy a peaceful coexistence within society, when sexuality, like race and gender, cease to be an issue.
I can breathe now, a sigh of relief, I am completely loved by you.
20 years ago, we were truly the love that dared not speak its name. We were nowhere, we were invisible. Invisibility is our greatest oppression. And it's no mistake that our slogans are gay pride, not gay jobs. This is what we have to overcome. We have to overcome the stigma. We have to overcome the psychological, the moral repression that is imposed upon us by society.
Wouldn't it be better if we could all live in a country where everyone can be honest about what they are, or better yet, doesn't even have to state because it's not relevant? That's the kind of country that I would like to live in, where we all have that right of privacy, or if we choose to give up our privacy and let someone know what our orientation is, that we don't get penalized for it, that we don't have to suffer because of it.
I think the best thing that gay people can do for themselves is stop lying. Is stop lying. is stop living double lives, stop masquerading, stop hiding. Just be who you are.
I think understanding comes with education. I would like to see a non-judgmental approach to education in the lower, even elementary school. I think the biggest problem is to have developed an open mind, at least open enough to do some reading and to read it intelligently and to understand what is being said in these books that are explanations of homosexuality.
I think that we have to act on many levels. One, I believe in integration in this country. Not only integration of the races, which is very, very important, but I believe in integration of the sexes. And I believe that we must have an integrated country wherein persons who are not lesbian or gay have the opportunity to know people who are lesbian and gay, and vice versa. Because I think when we know people as individuals, then we have less fear of them and we have more understanding of them. And then we don't know what all the fuss is about. Because we know somebody who's a lesbian and we say, oh, what's the big deal? What is it that we were ever worried about? And we find out that they've been terrific teachers in the schools. They've been wonderful nurses. They've been terrific lawyers or terrific doctors or terrific dentists. They've been in every profession. And we stop thinking about that as being very important to us, and we think about other factors which are certainly more important, such as whether we got great medical care from the person, or whether or not we've enjoyed their art in our home, or whether they were a terrific entertainer and brought us pleasure that night on a very special occasion that we had. So I think that that's something that we have to work toward, is getting to know each other as individuals.
What I'd like to say to the non-gay community is I'd like to ask them not to judge us badly, not to be afraid of us, because we're really not a threat to anybody. I'd like to ask them to approach us with an open mind and with a willingness to learn about a lifestyle that's different from theirs. And I'd like to say to them that with this kind of an open attitude, I think that all of us could look forward to a better future.
It's important for people to really see that we're all kinds and shapes and sizes, and people are human. We're not, you know, Martians, and we're not all this, as in nobody is, as all straight people aren't this and all, you know, those kind of gross generalizations are so misdirected. They're so off base from what really exists. We're real. I mean, there's all kinds. There's some I like, some I don't like. You know, some who are rich, some who are poor, some who are fat. It's like, that's what's important, to really just understand that there is no, they're all this and they're all that, and that kind of psychology is
It's very scary.
Yeah.
For me, what it is that I tend to just be right out there with my lesbianism, and people see that I'm so comfortable with who I am that it just enables them to be comfortable with me, and that I'm a little different than Romney. I sort of come out there. I just happen to mention Romney's name or say something, and
you're more like, if you're going to like me, they're going to like me, and if not, it doesn't matter.
Which I think.
And I'm more, you know, I want people to like me and not pass judgment on something so shallow. So I'm more, you know, cautious.
People shouldn't judge other people based on their sexuality, and that people are the same, and that all the myths and stereotypes are just that they're myths and stereotypes, and that they should know the people before they make judgments about them.
We're all humans, and we should all stick together. And if we do, you know, we'll have better relationships and everything, and we'll have more of a understanding for each other.
The open persecution, rejection, and ridicule of homosexuality has to stop, and it will stop. In my hearing, those that are hearing me, it will stop. I simply don't tolerate it.
I would ask this heterosexual community that is viewing this tape for acceptance.
I wish we could all just cut the crap and just learn to love each other. Everybody.
You can know all I am. Share my life, take my gift. You can know all I am. You can know all I am. Watch me grow, know my sorrow. I can't lend and I can't borrow, but you can know all I am. No fancy fantasy, no magic mystery, no wide-eyed wonder, just a plain and simple love. You see me just the way I am. I know you as you are. We're living down on earth, just a plain and simple love. Just a plain and simple love. My lonely days are through. I can breathe now, a sigh of relief. I am completely loved by you. No frantic facades, no lies at the start, no great expectations, just a plain and simple love. All the years of pretending to please and impress left such a scar of loneliness, too mighty to confess. Just a plain